All right, good evening, everybody. We are here after our Spring Martinsville race, episode 10 of the season. Looked like Denny Hamlin was going to win until he didn't. We had the Grand National and the Cup on track this weekend at the Paperclip, and then we head into a 2 week break where we'll be back at Bristol. So, with that, yesterday the Grand National guys ran. Lee Pulliam, new guy. Oh, and there's Mark making an appearance uh, with his finger up for everybody. So, start with the Grand National race. Weather was good. That wasn't a factor. What'd you think about the race, Blake?
I found it to be decently entertaining. A whole lot of wrecked race cars, um, but definitely was more entertaining than the Cup race ended up being. Um, Beyond shocked at the Corey Day outcome. I mean, he's been in the top 10 all year, but I just went back to the last fall and he ran like absolute trash here last fall. So for him to come and finish second, I was kind of shocked about that. Just he's he's really showing us he is the real deal, and it just like they're saying about Ty Gibbs, it's not if he's going to win a race here soon, it's when.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
other than that, you got Justin Algaier, future Hall of Famer, um, got himself another one. Just
You might want to go listen to the podcast last week because that's probably not the case.
what's that?
Justin Allgaier being in the Hall of Fame.
I know that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, we could talk about that at the end about just the idiocy of those comments, in my opinion. But we'll see. I'd like to hear what y'all have to say. So yeah, Allgaier goes back to back, wins another one. JRM continues its dominance. Um,
Was it
really
five
the
in a row?
biggest, yep, the biggest story was Lee Pulliam, both for good and bad. Here's a guy who, much like a Josh Berry, never was able to break through, finally gets his opportunity, runs well, keeps his car clean all day, and up until the end, had done exactly what he was there to do. And then on that restart where he wasn't able to get it in gear, and it just everybody's still coming with a full head of steam and just destroyed a ton of race cars. Um,
That was every bit of half the field, yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, it looked like there was at least 20 cars with some form of damage or another. Um, but I was happy for him because you want to go out there, especially if you're a guy that's been looked over and never whatever reason got the breaks and then you finally get it. The last thing you want to do is be responsible for something like that. So I felt bad for him there. But he made the most of his opportunity other than that and ran well. Prior to that, I was thinking, okay, he's probably going to win, or stands a very good chance. So
Well, it's hard to feel real bad when you still finish fifth.
yeah, yeah. I just feel bad that your first start is marred by but what's going to be more memorable, your finish or that you destroyed a bunch of stuff?
I mean, I'm honestly more okay with him doing that with that result and wrecking that many race cars coming in his first race as opposed to almost ending up in the same fucking position in the cup race with the bullshit that Bubba did to Hocevar.
Yeah,
Almost ended up the exact same way, and that was fucking stupid.
absolutely.
I mean, that was just uncalled for. But yeah,
Okay.
not to get us ahead to the cup race, but yeah, that I'm a lot more okay with what Polium did than and the result from it than what we saw today. That was stupid.
The thing that sucks about the Pulliam thing is the fact that when that happened, you had essentially junior motorsports, all five cars in the top six,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Yeah.
mixed in with a Hendrick cars or Hendrick motorsports car. Essentially, six junior motorsports cars all up front, and because of the misfire shift, you just not only destroyed half the field, but one of your teammates.
Well, the other driver that really impressed me, besides like you mentioned with Day, was Brent Cruz. Here's a guy
Yeah.
who, another dirt guy that's come to pavement, making a name for himself. Everybody has high expectations for him, but unfortunately for him, he's too young to run the full schedule. So he, unlike our good buddy out there that is gonna, fly around the top of Talladega like a bald eagle, soaring through the air, that was gonna do some of this stuff over there. He gets to, Cletus, gets to start with like next to no level of experience compared to Brent Cruz, and Brent Cruz can't run the whole damn season. Who
Well, he's good.
He's good
after he's good after tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, it just puts him in such a hole to start the year towards,
But I think he's good enough to.
I think
I
he'll
think
make
he's
it
good
up.
enough to get up in the top 12. I really do.
I do. I think he'll make it up. It's just sad because you have to spot that many points, and it is hard to make up ground, as we see. Like the points are going to continue to tighten as we go. We're now 7 races in, and yeah,
It's a too soon of a take, and I know I've been doing a lot of these lately with driver spots opening up in the next year or 2 years. But I see that if he runs good in O'Reilly this year and next year, I see him being Denny's replacement when he retires
okay,
because of how well he ran in trucks. And now, I mean, he's only got a couple starts under his belt with O'Reilly, but he was running top 5 at Martinsville in a car he hadn't really been in this year, and then got wrecked. But I just he's good, and he's got Mobile One backing him, which helps tremendously. So I see that being a help too to get him in with JGR and the 18.
Unless his dad gets him fired like he did Daniel Dye. It was Brent Cruz's dad that started that comment that got Daniel Dye all wound up, but who's counting now?
I'm sure
Yeah,
he'll learn that.
I do think that's interesting that, just not that I want to go down that whole rabbit hole, but Daniel Dye is the one who gets suspended, not the people that are in the room with it.
Yeah. Because Brent and Brent's dad were the ones that were in the room with him, and Brent's dad was the one that originally made the comment about the Indy driver
He instigated
playing
it
for the other team, huh?
He instigated it.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can slice that pile of BS, but
So with the O'Reilly race, also it's crazy back-to-back days near the end of the race. You had 2 drivers essentially lose their damn minds.
yep.
You had Roger Carruth, who stayed cool all day, was leading it quite a few different times, decides he's just going to lose his damn mind and ruin a top 10 finish and finish in the 20s because he can't stay calm.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's going to hurt him, and especially in a season where he's not full time in that car, and every opportunity isn't going to be in a top tier ride for him to try and win a championship. To forfeit points unnecessarily was a mistake. That's going to come back to bite him come the fall.
And I believe Larson's going to be in that car at Bristol. So,
yeah,
you took a race where you were in it at Martinsville and running good, would have got I think a top 5 or 6 out of it. Instead, you're in 20s, and it's just you got to think about shit like that. Stop trying to run people over just because they did you wrong, and just take the finish.
It's weird. You'd almost think that he was being mentored by somebody.
Yeah, that same afternoon. Yeah.
No, today.
That I'm saying he mentored him earlier before that race started.
Oh yeah. It's like, come on, man.
I found that quite ironic that Bubba just did the same damn thing.
Yep.
Well, let's see. Go to- Yep, Roger lost 2 spots just because of that. And
He lost 2 instead of picking up 1, didn't he?
yep.
Yeah.
Lost 2. Parker Retzlaff moved up, stayed the same. Brandon Jones moved up 3. Mayer down 1. Let's see here.
Or
Jed-
actually,
yeah, go
Roger
ahead.
would have moved up more than 1, wouldn't he? Because he had stage points.
Yeah, you're right. I think you would have. Hill drops down 1. Creed moves up 1. But yeah, there's you just can't afford to do that. Cannot afford to give it up. So let's see here.
Does anybody even know what he was mad about at Love about?
Love pushed him up the racetrack. He literally just moved him out of the way, so it pissed him off.
So just typical Martinsville then.
Well, I mean, it's you're within the last 5 laps. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, like everybody's going, okay, you lost a spot. Don't if you can get back, great, but don't unnecessarily give up a bunch for no reason.
Well, he got it back, but the problem is, even though he got it back and he ran himself up the racetrack instead of holding the line, he tried coming back down into the line of traffic. And I mean, the 19 or the 18 was there because Cruz is the one that ultimately ended up spinning him out. But that's because Caruth came back down the damn racetrack into him. So yeah, I mean, he brought it on himself.
Dumb people going to do dumb things. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So, do you want to do a quick conversation now about the 30 Mo Media conversation last week with Algaier, since we're on O'Reilly right now?
Yeah, we can do that. So, the Hall of Fame. The topic for the Dale Jr. download earlier this week was all about whether or not, it really centered around not just around Justin Allgaier, but do you think the NASCAR Hall of Fame should be for Cup people only at the Cup level? Which the guy Travis that made the comparison basically pointed to Major League Baseball, but Major League Baseball is very clear that it's about pro baseball,
Well,
not.
just like the NBA, just like the NFL, it's all
Yep.
yeah.
When NASCAR established the Hall of Fame, they looked across all of NASCAR because NASCAR has been many things at many levels and continues to evolve. So it's harder to say Cup is the only show in town when you've eventually created these other series and you've had these spin-off series to say that, well, the NASCAR Hall of Fame should only cover the top level. Then you're ignoring all the other people and pieces that made the sport what it is. So NASCAR's Hall of Fame has never been like that. But the argument was that, essentially because of his lack of cup accomplishments, he wasn't Hall of Fame worthy, which I think is completely asinine. But that's just my opinion. Because when you look at, okay, so then we look at other people like who is in it that's in there? Tommy. It'll come back to me. But the modified guy with 7 championships. Well, he's in the Hall of Fame. So you're saying that's not a worthy accomplishment? He's got more championships than Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah, he has 9.
Yeah.
9. And Travis
And-
said no, he shouldn't be in there.
Which to me is insane. But so yeah, what do y'all think about that? Like, I just think that's a crazy take that if we're gonna do that, then you still have to have a Hall of Fame for those other guys because it's not an insignificant achievement to win at the other 2 tiers or even
Uh,
at the National Touring Series level, period.
Chris, you want to take this first? You want me to?
Go ahead.
My viewpoint is he was half right. So, you got to look at wins, championships, average finish even. Right now, I think he's kind of borderline on getting in like quickly. Like Junior said, there's a lot of drivers in Cup that are driving right now that are really good and have really good numbers. If they were to retire now with Algaier, he's going to have to wait a while.
Yep.
Man, you got to look at the fact that you got to look at people like Ricky Stenhouse. He won back-to-back championships. Austin Dillon has won truck and O'Reilly championship. Do those two drivers deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? At this moment, I can't say they do. But if if Allgaier is a Hall of Famer, so is Ricky, and so is Austin. And that's where you get kind of a muddy slope because of all that. And you know, is Randy LaJoy on a ballot or is he in? I can't remember.
He was on the ballot, but he wasn't picked, I
Yeah,
think.
If he gets picked, I'm not going to agree with it. So it's just with Allgaier himself, it's just kind of a borderline thing, and Randy's a borderline one too. Now Ricky Stenhouse, I don't agree with at all, but Randy also won back to back, so it's kind of like it's a slippery slope because yeah they won championships, but their win numbers compared to how many seasons they drove, it's kind of muddy. That's just my opinion.
So let's just take those two guys, for example. Okay, so let's start with the older of the two. Randy and LaJoy. So two championships, 96 and 97 in the Busch Series. And this is where if I was sitting on the Hall of Fame, I think winning a championship does not necessarily, at the lower two series, doesn't guarantee you a Hall of Fame spot, but you should be up for consideration. But I also think you have to weigh the circumstances under which you won that championship. The winning you're in, winner take all championships have to be looked at totally differently, unfortunately, across all three series than the traditional championships of the full season. LaJoy won them in 96 and 97. There were no gimmicks. And that was a time where you had Mark Martin, Earnhardt, Sadler, Dale Jr. Like you have both future Cup stars, existing Cup stars and champions, and those guys were earning points in those series when they were racing. Some of them for full-time season points at the Busch Series level. So to me, LaJoy's two championships are very deserved and earned, and I would rank them up there because of the time period in which he won them again and against based on who he raced. Now, as far as what he's done outside of the sport, now let's look at him and then you have to take that part of it because that's a big part of it. What has he done for the sport outside of it? I would say there are any number of people that are still alive because of him, just like the Hans device. His
Yep.
seats, now, his championships get him in the conversation. His seats are what should lock him into the Hall of Fame, in my mind. What he's done
I
for
can agree with that.
what he's
He
done for
raced
safety, you know.
he raced off and on for 19 years, 350 starts with 15 wins.
Yep. He doesn't have
Two
a
times.
mountain of wins, but he has those two championships, and he won them in
Yeah.
the format that they had. And, so is it? I mean, I think it's a very nuanced conversation. Really, is what it is. It's very hard to say he's not deserving when you look at all that he's done for the sport.
I mean, you really can't. You really can't. I mean, if you're going to go through and you're going to say Randy LaJoy is undeserving, other than he's more in the public eye,
Yep.
he probably has more of a public following just because of who his dad was. But if you look at those numbers, other than a lot of Junior's numbers came from Cup, Junior's numbers aren't much higher than Randy's, and two-time
Agreed.
champion in the Xfinity Series, but not Cup as well.
Yep. As is Carl Edwards, as is Kevin Harvick. There are several Busch Series, as is Martin Truex Jr., that had they not delivered on the Cup side would be in the exact same conversation.
Yeah.
They're multi-time Busch Series championships. So you're almost dismissing how hard it is to win at that level. And yet we saw how long has it taken Sheldon Creed to break through and win a race? Forget, competing for championship, just to win a race. Well,
Yeah.
if it's that hard, then I think it's very wrong to be dismissive, especially when you look back at the era of those teams and the haves and have-nots where they made a lot of their own stuff. And he wasn't with, the top tier best guys out there. So It's not like he was with RCR like Harvick was, or with DEI, or he's earned his spot. So then I look at Stenhouse, and I have a very similar feeling for Stenhouse. Stenhouse, they didn't, the chase only existed for the Cup guys. There was no chase at the time for the uh, Xfinity series, which was Xfinity / Nationwide, and he won his. And again, competing against guys that were full-time Cup, also accumulating points, also winning championships at that level. Brad Keselowski, Carl Edwards,
He beat
uh,
Edwards.
yep, Kenseth, Kyle Busch, the guys he beat to win those two championships back to back that were very well funded. And, Roush was not the best team, not even close to the best team at that level. So, and he's got, the way he got his, same thing. Like, I have a hard time discounting people that have accomplished that at the second tier and even the third tier. Hornaday's in it. Well, he didn't do anything in Cup. Hornaday's in there just for the truck awesomeness.
Yeah, not only Hornaday, but the big one that I think everybody overlooks. Because like you said, the first name that usually comes to mind for everybody's Hornaday. Look at fucking Crafton.
Yep.
I mean, basically, the guy raced up until last year, and not many people even knew who the hell he was.
Yep.
And he's a multi-time champion in that series.
I could, again, I think they try to think the Hall of Fame should be reserved for like those people that are name attention getting, bright lights, whatever. And while I understand the desire to do that, I think it's wrong to dismiss these people's accomplishments and how hard it was to win those races against the caliber of talent in which they won them against. I think that's why people have a hard time saying, and I don't agree with it, but like when Jordan Bianchi says that Richard Petty would be on his Mount Rushmore because of his 200 wins compared to, or best drivers compared to someone like Pearson versus someone like Gordon or Johnson with their 94. It's hard to say which one is worth more when the opportunities are different, the level of competitions are different, the manufacturer, how it plays into it. There's just so much. So for me, I think if you're going to continue to call it the NASCAR Hall of Fame, it has to be across all series. And you have to look at when you're grading their career, you have to look at the circumstances under which they earned the accomplishments they did. So,
I will backpedal a little bit on Algaier because 17 years, 31 wins. I mean, that's really not bad. Most of them coming in the past, 6 or 7 years. But, I think the thing that's going to save him and possibly get him in is when he's retiring. He's retiring now. It takes 3 years to be put on the ballot. I think that is going to save him because if he were to wait till, next year, the year after, and more drivers retire from Cup, I think that would hurt his chances.
yeah. So yes, to the discussion point of, is Justin Allgaier a Hall of Fame driver? If NASCAR Hall of Fame is meant to encompass everybody, and you're looking at each series and the people who've won championships in those series, then yeah, he's on a very short list of people that have ever won championships in the Grand National Series. So he should be in that conversation. Now, again, I just said the championships under the winner take all format, you have to look at them different than you do the ones where it took an entire season. In some ways, they're harder, and in some ways, they're not. It depends on what kind of season he had when he won it. He was a dominant car that year, so he was more than deserving. Um, but I do think you have to either we have to continue to treat it as a NASCAR all-encompassing umbrella, or you're going to need to break it off. And instead of we only bring in 3 guys a year, there's 3 eligible from, or 2, or you drop it to 2 eligible, and you say there's 2 eligible per series of the top 3, and then a national touring series entrant, and you get 6 or 7 people on that list just in those 3 categories: 1 national touring, 2 at truck, 2 at Cup, or 1 at Cup, or 1 at truck, 2 at Grand National, 2 at Cup. some type of tiered system like that, because you can't just completely dismiss their achievements. That's like saying, well, Mark Martin's 60 plus wins at the and the Winn-Dixie car and all that are worthless. Like, no, or all of Kyle Busch's 200 something plus wins total across all three series. Like, you just can't dismiss that. I mean, when you look at how hard the competition was across all the series and the plethora of drivers they had to beat to collect those trophies.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what you would be doing. You'd be dismissing the majority of Kyle Busch's wins have come in the two lower series compared to the upper series.
Yeah,
His win count in both of those series outweighs his win count in the Cup Series.
yeah.
So, same. I mean, Mark Martins
He's
wasn't far off. He had 40 wins in Cup. He had 49 in Busch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just and if that was the case, then they need to go through. And I mean, you would have to look at it over an entirety, and that would basically change that would basically change the entire sport. If that's going to be the case, then when you're putting stats up on the wall and you're saying 106 total wins, which it would only be 105, not 106, because all but one came from the Cup Series for David Pearson, then you would have Kyle Busch is only at 60 something wins, would put him where on the list as opposed to where he's at now.
Yeah.
I mean that changes a lot depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Busch is another perfect example. You brought up a good one there. Okay, he's a two-time Cup champion, multi-time owner champion, Xfinity slash Grand National champion. He is a truck multi-time, like I said, truck owner champion, has a mountain of wins in both of them. And so to say that those wins don't weight the same way, I have but yes, they're not as hard to get as Cup, but they're not as easy as people are dismissively making them.
No.
You have to remember who did Kyle Busch have to beat to get a lot of those wins? Hornaday, Sauter,
Greg.
Crafton, Biffle, Bush, his brother, Edwards, Keselowski, and then you go across all these different tiers and you look at how stacked the competition was before we had these limits of how many races these guys could compete in. Those championships at those levels and those wins where they were running full seasons because you could, even while he had long been successful in Cup and he was running for both championships at the same time, like that to me is just wrong to dismiss those levels of competition. So
Yeah. I pulled up the stats for Stenhouse.
yep, go ahead.
110 starts, only 8 wins, 2 championships.
Across all series, or that was just Grand
That's
National?
O'Reilly. His O'Reilly stats is 110 starts, 8 wins, 40 top 5, 63 top 10s, and 2 championships.
So how many starts again?
110.
And how many top fives?
40.
Okay. So 40% of the time he finished in the top five. He won 8 times. He won 2 championships. How many top 10s?
Over 60.
63.
Okay. So 60% of the time he finished in the top 10. So I think when you're considering them, this is where the problem is with the Hall of Fame. We've gotten far enough along. You're trying to compare stats of Cup versus Xfinity or Grand National versus Truck. And you almost have to split it up and have 3 different selection groups because there's no way everybody has to come up through the ladder. But now you're saying their accomplishments up the ladder don't matter. But those accomplishments up the ladder are what got them to where they are. It's what got him into Cup, which is what helped him win the Daytona 500. It's what helped him win these Dagger races. It's what's helped him make the championship playoff system. And, winning a Cup race is a very short list of people to begin with.
It also makes you think that sometimes it's a 1-year fluff. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to bring in Jamie McMurray, for instance. Jamie McMurray's won in all 3 series. He's never won a championship, but he's won the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400. He's won Charlotte. He won Charlotte in the second race. but he's won all these races in all 3 series. He is never going to be even on the ballot.
Do you think he
But
should be? I would say yes.
I mean,
think he should at least get on the ballot. But if he ever gets there, I'll be shocked.
Oh, I
100%
agree. I
shocked.
think his chances of getting on the ballot are next to none. But I think when you
But
look
that's
at,
what I'm saying. If he
yeah,
can't be on the ballot, being a Daytona 500 champion, Brickyard 400, and winning all 3 series, then I don't think, especially if Stenhouse is, eventually gets on there and McMurray never does. I don't know.
winning and
I
all.
think
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
well, I think one big thing when it comes to somebody like McMurray that has to be taken into account too. I mean, we're coming up on what, over half of the time he actually spent in the 3 major series, he's now spent in TV.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's not still contributing to the sport.
Yep.
I mean, he might win like one of those landmark awards or whatever those things are, but I don't
Yeah,
think he'll
possibly.
ever.
But
I don't think he'd ever win. I don't think he'd ever even be nominated for the Hall of Fame. It's just I don't see it.
yeah,
But
I think it's
a
sad.
reference point. He had a really, really good year.
Yeah.
And he won a bunch of other races along the way, but he's never going to be on the ballot.
Yeah, I think I unfortunately I think you're right. He may never make the ballot. I mean, I think he deserves to make the ballot. I think it'd be hard to. I think it'll be hard to get him voted in.
Yeah.
But I do think he deserves to at least make the ballot.
I think it's very hard because to me, I agree. I think he deserves an opportunity to at least have the case heard out. I think the problem you run into is how you grade, the people sitting in the room and how they grade achievement. I mean, all right, so you got Kyle Petty sitting there as a voting member, for example, and he won cup races and he started his own team and he's contributed to the sport for a long time in the TV arena. And is by far and away a fan favorite when it comes to his opinion. And I would say his accomplishments he's more known for anything besides being Adam's dad is that one hot night thing in Charlotte. People forget all about all his win, hit the just close to 10 wins in Cup.
You mean the fact that he almost killed Davey Allison?
Right. But the fact that
a year early,
that here's a guy who votes for the Hall of Fame, and I appreciate his historian aspect of the sport, but if I take Kyle Petty's career stats and just career to career, and I compare it to Jamie McMurray, well, Jamie's won in all 3 series against, again, some very tough competition.
Yeah.
And he's won crown jewel events. So to say he wouldn't be worthy of at least a conversation, I have a hard time with. I'm not saying he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think you can dismiss his career as being like, well, he only had this small window of wins. The races he won are big ticket items. So if you're saying crown jewels matter, then you can't dismiss this guy's career because he won a handful of crown jewels.
Yep.
And Talladega is a crown jewel in a lot of people's eyes, and he won that one a lot.
And that's another thing that might help Ricky along the way and Austin Dillon they both won Daytona 500s. Austin, his first win was the Coke 600.
Yep.
So he's in the same neighborhood, in my opinion, as McMurray. He probably shouldn't be on the ballot, but he's probably going to eventually be on the ballot over McMurray because of the two championships in truck and O'Reilly.
Well, Dylan, just correct me if I'm wrong because I don't have racing analytics up, but Dylan has both a truck and Austin has a truck and a Xfinity or a Grand National
he
champion.
did back-to-back
So,
years.
so he's got a championship in each of the 2 series, and he's won crown jewels and Cup, and has multiple wins in Cup.
Right.
I don't know how you don't include him in a Hall of Fame discussion.
Yeah, he has just as many wins in Cup as SVG.
So it's. I understand where Travis is coming from, and when you start breaking it down like this, it becomes very hard to have the conversation and to do it in an unbiased, a fairly weighted way. But you have to do it.
Well, it's hard to take the Hall of Fame committee members seriously when Jeff Gordon should have been a unanimous.
Yep.
And it wasn't.
Well, him and Jimmy Johnson both weren't first ballot Hall of Famers.
Their first ballot, they just
Or
weren't,
sorry, yeah, they weren't unanimous. Like,
which is,
yeah, insane.
I mean, neither was Richard Petty, but that was the first year, and I'm sure that was just, you
Yeah,
know, there's so many people that could have went in, but how do you not unanimous a guy with 200 wins?
yeah. I mean, I agree. He's
And if
a
if when Kyle Busch goes on the ballot, if he's not unanimous, there's something wrong with everybody in that room.
agreed, 110%. Because I just look at not only his win structure, but think about how much better he made the people around him that came behind him, the Eric Jones, the Christopher Bell, the you know the Casey Canes, all the guys that had to race with him to earn their way up, and he was the measuring stick and has been the measuring stick for a long time. If you can go out there and run with him at the truck level and the Grand National level, then you're ready.
Well, not only that, and to
And
kind
the
of
talent he's
probably put,
developed with through his
yeah, that's
programs
what I was
with.
going to say. Not only that, to put a period on the Hall of Fame talk, but the amount of drivers, if you go through the field right now, that have drove his vehicles,
Yep.
is probably what, close half the field,
Yep. And look at the
probably.
number of crew chiefs and car chiefs and mechanics and engineers that came
Mhm.
from him.
Not
Raised
only half the field that's currently running, but there's still people coming in that have been in his equipment that aren't even in the field yet. You still got Hine, you still got
Yep.
guys like that
Yep.
that are still coming in. That
Yep. And I would argue the same thing for someone like Brad Keselowski. Like, yeah, he's got a cup championship and he's got nationwide championships, which should be all the conversation you need to have. But then for him, but then you look at, okay, well, he's got his TV portion that he's done, when he was doing race day and all that stuff, and when he was doing the hub and stuff like that. But now you've got him as an owner, not just as his truck team ownership, but now you have his ownership and the legacy he's building with RFK that is yet to be determined. But you look at, well, would Ryan Blaney be here right now if Brad Keselowski hadn't had a seat for him? I think he would, but would he have gotten as far as he's gotten? Same thing for Priest. Same thing for, you know, each one of these guys, these guys, you would think they would be an automatic, the moment they're available, would go in. But I have, just based off like what we saw with others, I think there's some bias and envy in that room that stops or that, taints the conversation where really you should be looking at just step away, leave your career out of it, which is what a lot of them to have a hard time seeming to do, and look at just what they've done across the board. So the Hall of Fame
I
discussion,
think
that was a very interesting one
I
because,
think
yeah,
it,
about
unless I'm wrong, there's been about 8 or 9 drivers in Cup right now. No, it's 10. 10 drivers in Cup right now. It's a quarter of the field that have driven for KBM.
yep.
So sorry, I was trying to do that in my head while you're talking.
No, that's okay. So I mean, it just further emphasizes the point of it's not all of one thing that determines your eligibility for being in the Hall of Fame. Your impact to the sport is felt. You as a drop in this pond and all the ripples that you create are so big. You know, there's guys that, you look at Tony Stewart, for example. Okay, so Tony's in the Hall of Fame, and he's in the Hall of Fame for a number of reasons. Championship owner winner, or owner driver, champion, you know,
3-time champion.
three-time champion, IndyCar champion. Um, but separate from that, if you took all that away, what else would make Tony Stewart a Hall of Fame level NASCAR participant? There's lots of guys that come, drive, collect their stuff, leave, never come back. And it's the
Well,
stories behind the scene that we hear about now later. Oh, this happened. Tony saying, and Jeff Gordon, others like it, saying, take my jet, go handle your business. Like they do all kinds of stuff that we never see, but in this pond that is NASCAR, their ripples are felt so far out that you don't see. To me, it's very hard to, take one thing and say, this is the reason why somebody should be in there, or the reason why they shouldn't be in there. Oh, well, they did this, but it wasn't at a cup level, or they did this and it wasn't at the Grand National level. So I feel bad for Travis though, the guy on the podcast that said
Oh,
that,
he's getting
that took his
lit
take.
up.
He got beat the hell beat out of him. I don't think it was a completely bad take. I disagree based on
So
the way
I
NASCAR is
get where
structured.
he's coming from for one reason. He is a huge other sport guy, right?
Yep.
He's a big college football guy. He's big, NFL, etc. And because of that, those sports, their Hall of Fames are done by, like we said earlier, they're done by NFL only, MLB only, NBA only. So he's clouded by that when this is the NASCAR Hall of Fame, not the NASCAR Cup Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna make a comment kind of along the lines of what Blake is talking about right there. Is I understand, especially for how big the Dirty Mo Media platform has gotten with all the different activity they have. I mean, you've got Speed Street. I mean, what Junior has five, I mean, basically has one every damn day. Denny, Mark Martin. I mean, everybody's on the on the platform now. But I think it goes to show that I understand you have to find talent. You have to find people that can come in, people that can do the job that need to be done as far as growing your platform, keeping your business running. But on the same hand, maybe some of those people just shouldn't have a fucking opinion that goes on the air. Because if you're really not part of the sport, I mean, I understand kind of why you asked him, but
I'm glad he brought it up though, because it's got everybody talking.
I mean, it has, but
Well,
that would be like taking the. I mean, you're almost putting that kid in a position to where you'd be taking the people that vote any people into the NBA Hall of Fame and saying, "Can you guys decide on who we're going to put in the NASCAR Hall of Fame?" Then it was yeah, it got people talking, but it was just a stupid fucking take that really should have never even gone on air.
Well, I think what it does do is it shows you, all right, we're all old school fans, or we consider ourselves, NASCAR heyday prime level fans when it was at its peak. Well, he's new. So his perspective is totally different than somebody like ours because he hasn't been a fan of the sport for the same time period, didn't experience the series or the sport through the same lens. So his perspective, I can while I don't agree with it, I can understand where he came from on it because of how he entered the sport and through its fandom. For him, it's not wrong, but I mean, hit fans like him make up a vast majority of the current fan base, for better or worse. So, in turn, I can see where there's a lot of people that agree with him, and I can see where people like us, Junior, Mark Martin, people that are from the older generation and where the sport was done differently, obviously clearly disagree because we're more entrenched in the history and the culture from back then.
No, but again, kind of the point that I was getting to.
But no, I agree with you. If you're going to bring somebody onto your show and you give them a microphone, it's while I think it's good to have the competing voice, I do think they should probably be more knowledgeable about the sport they're speaking toward.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is if you're really going to have an opinion on something like that, or I mean, even if you came from other sports, you followed other sports coming up, but now this is the industry you're working in. Maybe go do a little bit of fucking research before you form an opinion.
Yeah, no disagreement there. All right, well, I'm sure there will be more conversation about this.
Was there a cup race this weekend?
So
What
yes,
cup race?
so let's go back to what we were originally talking about. At least our 30-minute detour probably here. All right, so moving on from O'Reilly to Cup, Denny Hamlin sat on the pole, led a massive chunk of the race.
Yeah, we can skip the first 332 laps.
Yep, he led a giant portion of the race. And then HMS was able to get back in victory lane through some strategy and through driving. So let's start with, this is the second short track, right, with this package now, because Phoenix was the first.
Yes.
Okay. So what'd you think of the racing overall? I mean, the tires definitely wore. The sides of the cars were black as, night, and the track clearly took rubber. Did they wear enough for you, or do you think you would like to have seen them wear more?
This is the third because they ran it last week too.
That's true.
Well, you're right, but you're wrong. That's
Different tire, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Same package, different tire, but yeah.
yeah. I said it before the show, but we still need more power. The wheels are too damn wide. The going up
So are the
80
tires.
horsepower. Going
Yeah.
up 80 horsepower didn't really change the race much. I mean, I didn't see it anyway. I mean, got 3 monitors going, watching 2 different cars, and seeing basically the same thing. I mean, after 10 laps, you're the good's gone, but everybody's good is gone, and you're running essentially the same speeds. And there was more fall off than I was probably expecting, and you saw that because of Chase's crew's idea of their plan was to pit twice in the last stage and not once. And Chase said in Victory Lane that he felt it possibly probably would have worked. So you saw he had the lead when Denny came out of the pits. So you kind of see the tire fall off was massive enough to see a big gain through pit strategy. But what we're used to, or the old school fan is used to, is that tire fall off being something during a run where you'll have comers and goers. You really didn't have that, is what I really took from it. You only had the comer and goer from pit strategy.
Yeah. I looking at it, I was pleased with the tire wear. I don't think it had the fall off that we had hoped for. So I would agree with you there. Um, it was pretty much, in a lot of ways, it was a typical Martinsville race. I agree. I think we need more power for here. Um, and again, we're going in the right direction, so that's good. But I do wonder how much of that is temperatures today versus what we'll see in the fall when it's hot. Uh, you know,
What I was going to bring up with that is the fact that Mark Martin put out a tweet that he found out that the reason the tire is this
yes,
wide
I was going to
is
touch on that.
because of Goodyear wanted it, not because of the manufacturer, but the Goodyear wanted a wide tire, and that just
Well, it had to do with the
not
amount of air needed to put in the tire for it to survive based on width and low profile versus height and narrow profile. So they still have the same amount of air in them or potential for it, but instead of being narrow width and high sidewall and the air volume filling, it's short sidewall and wide profile to get to the same air, which is an interesting nugget. I'd be
It's
curious.
interesting. It tells you that you should have just got rid of the low profile or some of the low profile.
Yep.
What is it, a 20?
It's either an 18 or a 20. Yeah.
It was 15.
Oh, you're
15,
talking
yeah.
about wheel diameter. Yeah. Yeah. I think they're 18-inch wheels now.
I feel like it's more than that. I don't know.
Because
I was
well, it
looking
might
at
be 20
diecast
because
like it's
it's either
15.
18 or 20 is like the standard for all cars now, essentially. But either way, um, yep. Compared to what we saw at Phoenix, short track to short track, same package, tire wear to tire wear. I didn't see what I wanted to see here. Unlike Phoenix, where we saw a lot more passing and the dirty air didn't play as big a factor. Um, yeah, I was glad to see everything blacked up and it taken rubber. I just think we could have gone further.
Yep. Other than that, the race was kind of hum ho for me.
Yeah.
The most exciting part was Bubba losing his mind.
Yeah.
And I've been an advocate for Bubba the last 2 years. People tell me he sucks. I'm like, well, you may think that, but he just won a Brickyard 400, and he has won in Cup, and he's won in trucks. He's won. Has he won in O'Reilly? I can't remember, but
Yeah,
he's won
he
multiple
tried for
times.
Roush, he did.
So he's not a shitty driver, but this guy just went from second in points 3 weeks ago to now 11th in points.
Yep.
Technically, he's tied for 8th with three other drivers,
Yeah.
but they're showing him 11th, and it's happened because of a wreck last week that was none of his doing, but the one this week was his doing. And in the chase format, you can't do that. You just can't.
Nope. So let me ask you a question. It was very clear when you watched that was deliberate. Should he be penalized? I know it's just Martinsville racing, and traditionally I would say no, but with the way we have pushed with suspensions and everything for right hooks and other stuff, for you turn this guy coming up out of the corner in front of 20 something cars coming full speed deliberately. Like the telemetry data shows it was deliberate.
Here's
So
what I think they'll do. Here's what I would do if I was running the sport. I would look at his throttle trace from the prior restarts in that corner and match it up and see if he used it way more, which I think we all know he did.
yeah,
If he more than likely just full throttled the fucker. So if he did that, 1 week suspension.
yeah.
Which will be a second time getting suspended for rough driving.
Which I just don't understand where he came up with the excuse. I misjudged the center of the corner. When you're on a fucking restart, you can't misjudge the center of the corner because where were you going to go? There was no misjudging that.
I think he was trying to say I misjudged when everybody else was getting on throttle.
Well, but still, how are you going to misjudge that when you've been through how many fucking restarts already that day?
I'm just looking
Not
clearly
even
at.
that day in his career.
Well, yeah,
I'm not even looking at what he
That's
had
the
to say.
thing.
I'm just looking at what happened, and then he gets out and makes a BS excuse. You see where he gets in the
said
back of him.
he
Doesn't let him.
saved himself when he said I didn't mean to do what happened. I just misjudged it. But he before he said that, he said I didn't like what he did.
Yep.
Well,
So
that was
yeah,
telling all of us that you were mad, and you probably lost. And we all know you're an emotional, very emotional person.
yeah.
You lost your shit. You just didn't want to tell everybody.
when did one of his emotions ever got to him before?
I believe it was Las Vegas, 2023.
Yep.
Oh, you mean when he wasn't penalized even for pushing a driver that potentially could have had a neck or back injury, and he basically just fucking shoved him into his own car right there on the front straightaway?
He got sat the next week.
But still, with just a 1 week fuck. But the reason why he got sat down was actually for the right hook. I'm sorry, there should have been more of a fucking penalty for actually putting your hands on a driver that could have potentially been, even though he climbed out of the car under his own power, could have been hurt at that point.
Yep. The endorphins are going, things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's very clear a couple things, and every driver. So I'm not saying Bubba's the only one. Bubba though clearly has anger issues, like more than most,
Yeah,
because he
you look at
routinely loses it and does things like this.
and then
Now,
like the time where he doused Bowman on pit road.
yep.
Yeah.
Bowman's obviously having some issues, and
And I think now on top of it, you've got Michael Jordan. So here's where I think what really is the driving factor for Bubba. Michael Jordan's been coming to all these races, and he's not even there for you because he's there because your teammate is winning all these races. And you won this crown jewel last year, and you were up there in the points, but you're not able to compete at the same level as your teammate. And that's a hard thing to swallow, especially when you got the same level of cars and everything. So it's just who's the better driver and who's executing better right now. But the problem for him is not only are y'all not executing at the same level, you're you're goofing up or gifting free points to the competition when you don't need to unnecessarily.
we've all been talking about how Riley Herbst, does he deserve the 35? Does he deserve this? If he doesn't watch out, if he falls out of the chase after the way this year started, he might find himself looking at Corey Heim taking his ride. He's got to watch himself. He can't be ruining a chase opportunity with nonsense like this. And like I said, if they look at his throttle trace like I would, I'm sitting in next week or in Bristol.
Yeah, like so I don't think that'll be a discussion by anybody in the main NASCAR media, but I think it's a worthy discussion of should he be suspended for a week or get some kind of points penalty, not just the one he incurred himself, but how much money was just spent unnecessarily because all those parts got destroyed for not even hard racing. Like that wasn't hard racing. Like he didn't like how he was raced, so he drove into him and he kept driving until he was spun out in front of the whole field coming out of the
And
corner.
it's not
I,
even the fact that he was mad about how he got raced. He was mad because he got burned and got passed on and didn't even get touched. He got passed 3 wide and basically got shown up on a fucking restart.
the way I look at it is he was trying to do what the car said in front of him. He was trying to ride the Dente.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
He was trying to
I
ride the
just want to
Dente.
go back to one thing. Didn't correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Sammy Smith get penalized for doing similar dumb shit 2 years ago at this racetrack in the fall?
That was for a win.
I don't think the scenario matters. The fact that you went in there and
It doesn't.
turned a
That's
car
what
and
I'm saying.
destroyed a
That
whole
was
bunch of
last lap nonsense.
right, but it still resulted in how many torn up cars.
You don't think it's a little more ridiculous and warrants a penalty more when you're destroying fucking race cars and it's not even
I
for a
just
win?
said I think he deserves to be penalized. How much more do you want from me?
Hey,
No, I'm just saying. So that's the yeah. All right. So all right. So after Bobo rode the Dente and we restart here.
he rode the Dente right off the damn quarter panel.
Yep. So he rode the Dente back to 11th place from second or third, like an idiot. Then Denny Hamlin decides to ride the door of the 12 right into the wall for reasons that pass beyond my understanding. But it was done in typical Denny Hamlin fashion where he just drives up there and forces you to lift. And if you don't lift, he pinches your ass in the wall.
So
So,
when they showed the replay from the 54,
mhm.
did the 54 nudge him before that happened? Because that's what I thought I saw.
I don't
If
think
he
so, but
did,
I
then
could be
he might
wrong.
have not had control of his damn car at that moment.
I know in post race, Denny said a couple different things. He mentioned that he thought he had a loose wheel and some other stuff. But if you just look at it at the initial take, it looks like Denny Hamlin doing what Denny Hamlin normally does, where he's adopted that Larson style of I'm going to drift up here and you can either lift or you can run yourself in the wall. Those are your choices. And
I've
I
never seen
think
Martin
Denny
do that.
allowed. I think this is one area where Denny became Bubba Wallace there in that moment, where he let his the fact that he dominated this race all day was clearly the best car and let it get away both through strategy and through racing
I,
decisions.
I found it ironic this happened right after the conversation last week. The amount of wins he'd have if this or this doesn't happen,
Yep.
and then it happens again.
Yeah.
Well, and the sad part is, and where I think it's ultimately a little too ironic, Blaney was the only one that you could really see on a regular basis all day that could get to that outside, hold it, and then take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And I think Denny didn't want him there, knowing that he was going to burn his shit up, trying to stay ahead of him. And if it went probably 2 more laps with Blaney being on his outside, he probably would have lost the position, and he would have ended up third instead of second.
What lap was it that he ran him in the wall? I feel like it was like 50 or 60 to go.
Something like that.
So, like, yes, yeah, actually it was because it was like around lap 62 or 3, which is where I don't understand. Yeah, the laps tick off quick here, but 62 laps isn't like 20 laps to go. There was plenty of time for him to do that and to get past Blaney and still make up the time to chase and to capitalize on it. And I think ultimately, I'm sure it changed the balance of his car and in turn made it harder for him to pass. But he also had to start driving through his rearview mirror because he has to see where Blaney nets out and if he's going to get back to him now.
Well, but my point on what I was saying is I think the only car that he was worried about being behind was Blaney. Blaney was the only one that showed any type of speed, and I don't think Blaney was going to push it before that caution came out. But Blaney was the only one on a long run that could even get anywhere back to close to what Denny was, and that was passing cars, and he got back to what within a second, almost of Blaney before that caution or of Denny before that caution came out. So
Yeah,
even though
because
Chase got around him, I think
Byron had speed at the first half of the race, and they fell off because it there was a couple times where he passed him. But he wasn't able to keep it, but he passed him into traffic or the way
Yeah, it
things
was only
went.
good the traffic. And then Denny got him right back.
Yep. So I just think what happened at the end there was basically the Denny Hamlin that dominated the race was not the Denny Hamlin that was racing in that moment. He saw it slipping away and made some moves that he'd probably like to have back. Especially when you're talking about somebody like Blaney, who's not going to forget that, and that's not how Blaney races. So there's
no.
going to come a moment where you need a break, and Blaney's just not going to give it to you, and he doesn't have to, because you could tell in his post race interview that he was pissed. He normally he's a very short, or he's got his sunglasses off and everything, and it wasn't that bright after, and he had the sunglasses on because you could tell he was pissed off. So, uh, so with that, HMS wins on the TV broadcast. All right, so a couple things. HMS wins at Martinsville, not totally unexpected. They've won the spring here many times. Finished 1, 2, 3 here a couple years ago. But this is, when it's not Blaney or Hamlin, it's usually an HMS, victory. So none of that was too surprising. But I think on the broadcast, they are a little eager to say, all right, see, there's no problems with the Chevy. I don't think that you can say that. This track doesn't have the same, I mean, it's important because it's in the chase and it's towards the end, but it doesn't have the arrow, or importance that a place like Vegas or Kansas has. So I don't think that they're anywhere near where they need to be still.
At
And
the end of the day, it was a luck win. He got
yep,
lucky that caution came out when it did.
yep,
It was
strategy,
debris,
luck.
and he got lucky. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, if that doesn't happen, Denny Hamlin wins this race. There's no doubt. So
So with that,
Hendrick has a problem. The
well,
long
Chevy
run, they're
as a
terrible.
whole has a problem. But now at least all three manufacturers have won this season. We're 7 races in, all three have won. Toyota has clear advantage so far in terms of where they sit. I did want to talk about this part though, because I think it's very interesting. And I don't think we've really gotten into it too far, but you know, both Chevy and Ford this year, more than anybody, when I say Chevy, what I really mean is GM. I'm very curious how much the entry to F1 is impacting each of these OEMs, Ford and GM, because GM is bringing in the Cadillac banner and they're having to build a new engine and all this stuff. And right now they're running Ferrari engines, but they're doing a lot of development work back behind the scenes and everything else. Ford is providing engines for the Red Bulls and same thing. So, and the only reason why I say that is you're at the end of the day, as a company, your motorsports budget is this big. Well, if there's money going over here, it's not going over there. So how much of that effort for Ford and GM to enter this F1 market is taking away from their ability to do better at NASCAR, do you think?
If it would only make sense if they were the ones making the motors for Hendrick or for Penske, but because like TRD does make the engines for Gibbs, you would have that deal. But Hendrick makes their own engines. Penske makes their own engines. There's not a link there.
Right,
Not in a
but GM's building an entire race car, aerodynamics, everything. Ford's
yeah,
doing the same
but
thing. So
I don't think it messes with this because of it's a kit. At the end of the day, this is a kit car.
because nobody has said it yet, but I do think no, but you're competing for resources at the simulator and model development and all these things that happen in the background that have to be shared amongst all your automotive racing programs.
I think that would hurt more long term than short term. Personally, that's just my opinion.
Okay. I think it's bigger. Clearly, I think it's bigger than what anybody is saying because they're not only trying to science out a new car over here for NASCAR with some minor changes, but you're trying to science out an entirely brand new car on the F1 side of the house for both of them and try and figure out how to get better. And if I'm having to limit simulator time and data, uh, and engineering efforts, maybe my best engineers aren't on my NASCAR modeling right now. They're on my F1 modeling because which stage is more important from a global perspective, you know. So
Evidently, it's not very
I just think it's
important
an
when you're
interesting thing to
able to
watch.
cancel 2 races.
Yeah. I just think it's an interesting thing to watch as the season goes and how long it will take Chevy as a whole to, square things up and get back where they belong. So, all right.
So points.
Yeah, so let's look at points. All right. So,
Reddick has an 82-point lead over Blaney, 94 over Hamlin, 104 Elliott, 115 Byron, 131 Gibbs, Bell 141, and then like I said earlier, eighth is 4 different drivers are tied for eighth: Keselowski, Larson, Busher, and Wallace. And sixth to eighth is what Junior predicts is the cutoff for anybody that can potentially win the chase. So, Shaman Gisbergen ran good again this weekend. He's in the 14th in points. So, Kyle Busch is pretty much he's almost 100 points out of 16th. He's
dropping like a rock.
Chase Briscoe is 60 points out of 16th. He had a horrible day.
Yeah.
He can't have many more of those if he just wants to make the chase, let alone compete for the championship.
Yeah. But, it's clicking off quick. We're only 5 races from the halfway to the halfway, and they're going quick, and you see the impact a bad start or a bad result has for you. I mean, it dropped Bubba from top 3 to tied for 8th to 11th. So you can't really have that going forward. Let's see here. I would say the people. I'm just trying to look at the points gap between them here. Of at this point, 7 races in, who's already done? I think you could probably. I think Connor Zilic is probably done.
He is definitely done.
I think he'll still win a race for this season because of his goals, but they're just not running like they need to on a consistent week to week basis. So I know I picked him to make the 16. No chance now.
Eric Jones, Kyle Busch, Josh Berry, Austin Dillon, John Hunter, they're all done.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple that could still claw their way back in, but I think, you could pretty much take from. I'm not gonna say Eric Jones yet.
I think Austin Cindric will get in.
I won't say Eric Jones just yet, but Kyle Busch, I think from 24th back, you're done. I don't care what your name is back there. I think it's too late. You're done. We're 7 races in.
Yeah, Austin Cindric probably the best outside the top 16 that has the best chance. The way he's been running the last couple of weeks. Chris, you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who's your surprise up there? Like, to me, it's Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs being up there. Tyler Reddick doesn't totally the wins in the short period should do and don't surprise me. The points, however, he was a regular season champion, not just 2 seasons ago. So we know the performance is capable, but the turnaround for Ty Gibbs.
I had him in my 16. I just didn't have him as high.
Has been extremely impressive. They're now firing on a week to week basis as a top 5 team. He's got to figure out his plate racing though, because that's where his weakest finishes have been so far this year.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else y'all want to talk about from the week or?
I mean, my
Again?
biggest surprise wouldn't necessarily be Gibbs. I didn't think he was going to come out and light the sport on fire again this year, but they hadn't showed enough speed last year going in that I figured they would be up there. Mine would be looking at the fact that we thought the road courses would propel him into the top 15, but not having a win this year, even already having the first road course gone, and where SVG's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, SVG's performance so far, like the rest of the field really ought to be watching out because here he is quietly again moving forward, finishing 14th. Did he get any stage points today?
Yes.
Yeah, he got stage points because he started 5th.
So he accumulated, what was the points he earned today? Van Gisbergen got 34 points. Positions 3 and 10, or 6 and 8 for the stages. So yeah, he got stage points in 2 of them and then finished 11th. So, I mean, he's going to keep on, getting them a little bit at a time. They better pay attention. And Reddick, having his average day where he had 9 points in stage 1 and 7 in stage 2, but then finished 15th. Well, that's okay when you're accumulating 12 points at the front half of the race. So
That team just, for whatever reason, lacks at the short tracks, man.
yeah.
It's
Which
Reddick.
it is concerning. Like, what is it that he's doing or not do? What is it that they don't seem to have for the short tracks? Because he's definitely,
I think it's a Reddick thing, not a.
Yeah, I don't think it's a team. I don't think it's the.
Well, no, it's not a
performance.
2311 performance. What I mean is is it him and his comfort level, or is it a 20? I have a hard time saying it's a 2311 thing because Bubba runs well here, other than when he's got his head up his ass.
I think it's just him, and I say this just because of one comment today that Larson made. Larson, after when he took those 20-lap fresher tires, got up to 10th or 9th or whatever, and then somebody passed him back. He said, "I just don't know what I'm doing wrong here." Sometimes you just can't figure it out. And yeah, he's run good with Hendrick, but he still doesn't understand how to get around there. He's got to win there, but he doesn't understand what Ryan Blaney understands or what Denny understands, and that's probably what Reddick's having an issue with.
Yeah,
He just hasn't. It just hasn't clicked yet.
I mean, I definitely think. I mean, Alan touched on something. I mean, for whatever reason, Bubba does. I mean, Bubba, what he had to win in the Truck Series here, didn't he?
Yeah,
and
the light blue.
Yep, the tribute truck to
Wendell Scott. Yep.
to Wendell Scott, but I mean, I mean, as long as he's doesn't drive, I mean that would, why not have those two going to work? I mean, Bubba could learn from Reddick everywhere else. I mean, Bubba's fast, but I think he has a lot to pick up from Reddick everywhere else. But this is the one place that I think Bubba could actually step up and potentially help Reddick if possible. But like I said, I mean, Alan touched on it though. As long as he's not got his head in his ass or his head in the 77's ass. Yeah. Posabar's ass and whoever he's mad at.
We're going to an off week. Bristol's next. Do you guys want to change who you had in preseason?
To win Bristol?
Yep.
Who
I
do we
had
have?
Denny Hamlin. Chris had Ty.
Okay.
And then you had Larson.
I'm gonna stick with my pick. I think this is where Larson wins.
I'm sticking with mine. Chris?
Riley, they're asking you a question. You're going to answer. What? Why are you stealing the show? I'm busy. Are we going with Gibbs, or you want to pick somebody else? She said, "Fuck it." I mean, as much as I don't necessarily like the kid, they're they're fast. I mean, we just talked about them in points, and I think, unfortunately, for as much as we like the other drivers at this track, we're going to a track that he could potentially pull it off.
I mean, I like your pick. I picked him for both races last year, and
Yeah.
it didn't happen. But I think that if I were to have a secondary pick, he would be my secondary pick. So I don't blame you for keeping him.
Yeah, I don't see the reason I don't see the need to change.
So that's all I got. Good sirs.
All right. Yeah, the only person I didn't mention that had a good day that really needed it, Joey Logano. After getting multiple laps last week at a place where he's won several times too at that, for them to come back and, proves that Penske's, powers in their short track game for sure. But he needed that to keep from falling further out of the championship chances, to save his season. He needed that finish right there.
He jumped from 16th to 11th, I think.
Yep. Well, he scored 46 points today. Conversely, last week he scored 4. He scored 4 whole points last week. So he needed that to keep it at, but his average finish, 25 over 7 races.
Yeah.
This is what his race 1, 36 points. Race 2, 22 points. Race 3, 22 points. Race 4, he decided he wanted one more point at 23. Race 4 or 5, 22 points again. Like, he's just been quietly average in the 20s, mostly his points. And, for the most part, I think you're going to need to average probably 28 points a race, maybe 29 to get into the 16. To win the championship, you're going to average in the 35 to 38 points a race. And that's where Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Larson, so Elliott's got 34 points a race right now. Blaney's got 37. Where's Larson? Larson's got
Not very many.
28, 29, 28.2.
No,
So,
get
he
down.
needs a little bit more. Hamlin, like I said, 36, Blaney 37. I think you're going to have to Byron 34. Like, if you're going to compete for this championship, you're going to have to be in the mid 30s points per race deal if you're going to have a shot. You're going to need to be in the high 20s if you want to even get in, based on the way things are shaking out. Briscoe has a whole 15 points. Like I said, I agree with you. I thought he could make it up. I don't believe that now. It's done. He's had 3 1 point earned races in the first 4. And then the other 2 races, or the other 3 races, weren't all that exceptional. 43 points, 29 points, 32 points out of a maximum of 75. That's not great. So he's yet to go out there and have a dominant performance that bails him out. Where like Denny went out there, had that dominant performance, got 70 points. Chase Elliott gets 55 points today. That offsets your lower day of 14 points when you have a bad day to bring you up. So, all right. Well, we'll try and do something next week because there's lots to discuss with this lawsuit and see what's going on there. But otherwise, we got a off week for Easter, and then we go to Bristol, and we'll see what kind of tire we get this time. Whether we get dust and flakes or massive tire balls or something totally different.
Tire balls.
Yeah.
But we're keeping this clean.
Nah, can't do that. Don't want to disappoint. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you in a week. Some change. We'll prep. All right. Bye, everyone.
Later.
Where's the stop? I can't find it.